And I don't want to get too personal here, but I want to be transparent with our tribe. Using Garrett's techniques and the techniques that Tanner uses, for those of you that know, I mean, I drive a DeLorean sometimes, a time machine. And I remember when I was first looking to shop for him, I used my infinite banking techniques to borrow against that, to pay for the car, and then pay myself back with interest. And so those were all tax deductible things. And then I said, look, to my accountant, I said, hey, I would like to write off this car 100%. And they said, there's no way we can do 100%. But then I put it on the cover of a book that I use for patients. I filmed a commercial with some of my patients to put a TV commercial together for the practice. And at the end of the year, the way we had leveraged this purchase with my life insurance, infinite banking, paying myself back with interest, and then we were able to write it off 100% because of the techniques and tactics that Tanner knows and understands how to use tax code and tax law to help save and protect and leverage your money better. So again, I think it's a really valuable call or email for you to send to reach out to Tanner after this video. Good morning, Whiplash Group members and some of our tribe. I just want to introduce you to a very special guest today. We have Tanner Adams with us today. He's an outstanding accountant and tax accountant and tax strategist. For those of you who know, we've interviewed Garrett Gunderson, and they're friends. They go back, I don't know how many years you guys go back. Decades,
we
maybe?
met our freshman year in college, had a math class together. So
awesome.
Yeah, close to 30.
That's fantastic. So great friends with Garrett, who I know you guys know. I just really love and respect the way he thinks, and he thinks the world of Tanner and refers to Tanner for his friends and professionals that he lectures to, going, look, if you need a good tax accountant, which you do, you don't want to do this stuff yourself. That's one of the biggest mistakes. Then use an expert, and use an expert like Tanner, who actually has a plan and strategy from beginning to end, rather than just waiting and trying to slap things together at the end of the year, which is it's a crapshoot. So Tanner, if there's anything else I missed on introducing you, please tell us a little bit about yourself, and then let's jump into why it's so great to have someone who's skilled in this field.
Yeah, absolutely. Appreciate the intro and happy to be here. So like you mentioned, I met Garrett my freshman year of college, way back in the day. Coincidentally, he was actually an accounting major too. I joke with him now, said, you were smart and got out. I stayed in, but we all work to our strengths, right? So, and like as you were saying with CPAs throwing things together, I spent 12 years in 5 different firms, very reactionary firms, right? Not a lot of tax planning, putting the numbers together last minute, having to call clients on the 15th. Oh, by the way, you've got to write a check for $10,000 or $20,000. And it just wasn't not a really good relationship, right? So that's a lot of the reason why I went to start my own. I wanted to try something different. And I happened to run into Garrett, which I don't think it was chance, right? Kind of meant to be, when I was looking to start my own practice. And he said, hey, you looking for a job? Come talk to me. So we met, and he's like, we'd love to have a CPA we can refer to. He's like, why don't you come to one of our events? So I went to it, and here I am, 12 years of my career, thinking I know taxes pretty well. And I'm listening to him saying, man, this guy knows more about taxes than I do. I loved his approach. It's outside the box. It's not just your standard CPA advice, like, oh, well, we'll put money into retirement plan, we'll save you taxes. Yes, it saves you taxes, but financially doesn't make the most sense, right? So I love Garrett's approach. Look at your lifestyle expenses. I want to see what money you are paying currently, how we can relate that to the business. Because that way we don't have to go spend money just to save taxes, right? And I like having those conversations with clients. For me, the more I know, the better. The once a year, hurry and put the taxes together, that's just a transaction. Like, I want to have a relationship and get to know my clients, know what's going on, so I can, be a consultant, be an advisor, help them throughout the year. Because tax planning is it's a year-long thing. Absolutely.
For doctors and attorneys, we wouldn't treat a patient or client just waiting till the end. Well, in the personal injury world, for those of us who are working that, we know that there are attorneys that do that. They just gather up records at the end and they try to slap something together, and it's horrible work and everybody loses. But going into our taxes, to have somebody who has a strategy and begins with the end in mind, which we coach all the time, that's just such a better way to work your finances so that you have a plan. Together you can go, hey, look, here's some of your strengths from last year, or here's some of the things that you're talking to you about buying this year. How do we better leverage those so that we have everything buttoned up at the end of the year rather than just a crapshoot? And that's what I love about how Garrett talks about. He just has such a 3-dimensional view of, rather than just going, okay, what does the accountant say for the tax break? But also, what does
Mhm.
the attorney say for protecting your
Yeah.
assets? Because sometimes those conflict. And so having a team like you and Garrett and your attorneys all talking together, wow. I mean, now you're building a firewall to protect your assets and you're
Yeah.
maximizing your tax benefits. And, I learned from Garrett back in the day, and I remember going to a seminar going, this is mind blowing. And I'm not an accountant, but the way he thinks is just so
Mhm.
cool. And to know that he has people like yourselves that are skilled and think that way is so refreshing, because I'm like, there's no way I could go home and do this myself. What's the power that you bring to the table? Like, are the tax laws changing every year? Is there anything new this year that jumps out for chiropractors and attorneys that's already on your radar?
Yeah, for sure. I mean, the tax laws do change. I mean, it is kind of hard to keep up, but we do have to get a certain amount of continuing education each year. A lot of times too, clients will reach out and say, "Hey, I saw this changed," right? And we definitely try to keep up through industry publications. We have our tax software that helps us with that, but we do keep, in the know of just knowing what's going on, right? The big beautiful bill this year changed a lot of things. Now more so kept in, what Trump put in like 2016 and expanded that a little bit, right? So the big thing for everyone, I think the most important is the bonus depreciation of 100%. So if you are buying assets, that's a big thing to keep in mind. Luckily, the qualified business income didn't go away. It was a 20% deduction on your pass-through income that they talked about getting away from because it was going to sunset this year. Those are the two main things. There are some other specifics, but really, I mean, at the end of the day, if you look at it, definitely positive for taxpayers, less money that almost everyone should be paying. So I think that's kind of the big thing to keep in mind. One other thing too, if you guys are aware of the state and local tax cap that was at $10,000 recently, or back in like 2016, 2017, that has increased to 40,000 this year. So that is going to be a benefit to some. Although we've had ways to get around that with the state pass serenity tax payment. So, but something we got to look on a case by case basis of how that affects each individual because it is very, tax plan is very specific to each person. It's not, one size fits all. We don't just send it out. Here's a blanket for everyone. You know, Everyone has some nuance, and even though we do work with a lot of chiropractors, like that's our biggest client base for sure. Each of them is a little different, right? Do they have some real estate? What are their goals? What are their plans long term? We want to keep that in mind and also make sure, like you said, work in conjunction with the attorney that we know what they have planned, so we follow in part with what they have set up.
That's awesome. See, and docs and attorneys, this is where it's really powerful, is because you're working with somebody who is thinking 2, 3, 4 steps ahead, rather than just like we had talked about earlier, trying to slap something together. And no plan is a plan to fail. We've all heard that quote before. And I think having a tax strategy plan with your tax accountant, someone like Tanner, is just it pays you back in dividends way more than it costs you. And I know a lot of us think, oh, especially chiropractic physicians, speaking to our tribe here, we're so entrepreneurial and so independently oriented, like, I'll just do it myself. Well, there are times when it's not cost effective. Your time and talents are worth 300, 400, sometimes $1,000 an hour, depending on what you're doing. And when you're thinking, oh, I'll just go do my taxes, when you don't have the skills in that versus paying somebody who does, the
Mm-hmm.
returns are so much bigger versus you wasting your expensive, valuable time trying to do something you're not good at that somebody else could do 10x better. It is, the ROI is huge. Would you agree with that?
Totally. Now, if you're just an individual that has W-2 income, if you don't own a business, we don't necessarily focus on those clients just because the benefit isn't there, right? I'll have people come and say, "Hey, we want you to prepare my taxes." I'll just be upfront and say, "Look, what you're paying me, I'm not going to save you that in taxes, right? You could probably do that in TurboTax for cheaper if you want to, but as a business owner, definitely changes the game. That's where we focus, our strategy. And I want to be free, right? I can't guarantee that you're going to save more in taxes than my fee, but that's definitely the goal. And in most cases, that's the case. Absolutely.
And I would say in most cases, and in the group of successful doctors and attorneys that I would like to connect you guys together,
Mm-hmm.
I'm sure for a consult, you can tell them if you're going to help, if it's more cost
Yeah,
effective to use them or not. So I would
absolutely.
encourage you guys to reach out to Tanner. By the way, my son worked with him, which is really exciting because he's learning all this stuff from the guru here, who's also works with
Mm-hmm.
Garrett. So I'm so excited for his future in this. But what I want to connect you with, Tanner, is that you doctors, a lot of you are still working as a sole proprietorship, which
Mm-hmm.
I just learned the other day. A sole proprietorship has about 8 write-offs. where an LLC or a corporation has 475 write-offs. Isn't that crazy? So having your practice set up and then having maybe some other hobby business or LLC set up that you can then write off a lot of things for, those are strategies you can talk to Tanner about and help set things up where you're living your wealth. This is what I love about how Garrett, upper middle class and wealthy, think, is that Tanner's going to teach you like, hey, live off your income and pay little taxes rather than making money and paying huge taxes and trying to live off what's left over. That's the huge value that he brings to the table for all of us. And there's a learning curve in that. And I think the beauty of having a coach, like we all talk about, we all should have a coach. And once we start making money, to have a coach to help us how to save, protect, invest that money and pay less in taxes. It's not tax evasion. It's doing the taxes right. And that's the difference between, I think, the wealthy and the poor. The poor are just always getting taxed to pieces. So then they're angry at the wealthy. Well, the wealthy hire professionals that know the loopholes to help save on taxes and help protect their money. So that's where someone like Tanner is a gold mine. So Tanner, how do people get a hold of you if they want to reach out?
Yeah, and we can send my email, right? Send that out, and I'm happy to do a 3-year tax review and strategy session, for your members. Usually we charge for that, but just from our relationship, and Josh, we love Josh, and I'm trying to get him involved as well. We'd be happy to do that. Like that's the part that I enjoy, right? It gives me, I can see 3 years, I get to know your financial picture. I can identify areas that we're missing and come up and say, hey, here's our game plan. Here's what we feel we can save you. And we can kind of take it from there. And like I say, we work with our affiliation with Garrett, we work with so many chiropractors. I love working with them. I'll take them all day long.
All right. So what I'd encourage all of you to do is look at the phone number and email and website at the end of this video and reach out. And don't wait. It's the end of the year. You can even do stuff right now to prepare to do that 3-year review and get things really dialed in this year. If this doesn't save you or maybe even help make you money, I will be shocked. So please reach out to Tanner and let's make the magic happen in stopping the leaks in your boat so you have more money to throw back in to grow that business and grow and live your wealth.
Absolutely. Yeah, now is a great time. We're just getting into heavy tax planning. I mean, if we're after the fact, there's not as many things we can do, but if we can get in now, we can certainly put a plan together and save you some money. And I think the big thing is just knowing what to expect, right? What am I going to have to pay in April? Because if you don't know, like it's hard to make financial decisions now, right? So we can at least let you know, here's where you are. Here's some things we can do to practically change that. And here's how much it could save you. And then financially, we look at what makes the most sense for you. I've been a fan of Garrett and the Infinite Banking, be your own bank. I've had a lot of situations. I mean, just look over what's happened in the financial markets, banks the last 5 years, like with COVID, right? How lending got tightened up. I mean, all the requests we're seeing from bankers now, I mean, it's crazy the things that they want, right? So just having that in your back pocket, it gives you some flexibility, right? And that's the nice thing about having Garrett in a set of working professionals. You're not going to get conflicting opinions. You don't want to say, well, my attorney told me this, my CPA told me that. Well, who do I go with, right? So you want a set of like-minded professionals that are on the same page, philosophically aligned, and can help you reach your goals.
That is awesome. And that's 100% the way Garrett thinks, teaches, and that's really wrapped up and summed up in his book, What Would the Rockefellers Do? Yeah. So What Would the Rockefellers Do book really covers that beautifully. And Tanner summed it up. Excellent. You don't want conflicting advice from your experts. They should all be aligned to help protect you. All right. Well, with that, we'll wrap up for now.